The conference room was colder than usual. Or perhaps it was just the weight of the moment. Ethan Caldwell, 48, sat at the polished oak table, his hands folded calmly, though his pulse betrayed a quiet storm. For 16 years, he had been the linchpin of Vertex Solutions, a mid-sized tech firm in Austin, Texas, that he had helped transform from a scrappy startup into a national player in supply chain software. As vice president of client operations, Ethan had built the company's Eastern division from a failing experiment into its most profitable arm, securing contracts worth $5.8 million annually through sheer grit, trust, and relationships forged over late-night calls and cross-country flights. Across from him sat Nathan Pierce, the new CEO, a 39-year-old wunderkind flown in by Horizon Capital, the private equity firm that acquired Vertex 8 months ago. Nathan's tailored navy suit and slicked back hair screamed ambition, but his eyes lacked the warmth of someone who understood what Vertex was. He slid a manila folder across the table, his voice clipped and rehearsed. "Ethan, we're restructuring to align with shareholder priorities," Nathan said, barely glancing up from his tablet. "Your position is being eliminated, effective immediately. This packet outlines your severance." Ethan's jaw tightened, but his face remained impassive. He took the folder, its weight heavier than paper should be. 16 years, countless 80-hour weeks, missed anniversaries, and sleepless nights keeping servers online, reduced to a 10-minute meeting. He had seen colleagues escorted out before, but never imagined himself on this side of the table. "I understand," Ethan said quietly, his voice steady. He stood, shook Nathan's hand out of habit, and walked to his office, where a security guard named Marcus, a young man Ethan had mentored, waited awkwardly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Caldwell," Marcus muttered, eyes on the floor. "They said I had to." "Not your fault, Marcus," Ethan replied, offering a faint smile. He packed methodically, a framed photo of his wife, Laura, and their 2 kids, a Client of the Year plaque from Pinnacle Logistics, a worn notebook filled with handwritten deal notes. 16 years fit into a single cardboard box. As he walked through the open plan office, heads turned. Sarah from accounting, who'd been with Ethan since the early days, froze mid-step, her eyes wide. "Ethan, what's happening?" "New priorities," he said softly, nodding to her. "Take care, Sarah." Marcus escorted him to the parking garage, where Ethan's old Ford pickup waited. In the rearview mirror, Vertex's glass tower shrank as he drove away, the Austin skyline fading into the haze. For the first time in years, the weight of contracts, deadlines, and client calls lifted, but instead of freedom, he felt a hollow ache. Ethan had joined Vertex in 2007, when it was a 6-person operation in a cramped warehouse on Austin's outskirts. Fresh off a stint at a failing .com, he was 32, hungry, and determined to prove himself. The founder, David Hensley, had a vision: software to streamline supply chains for mid-sized businesses. But their early platform was buggy, and the Eastern Division, a pilot to serve clients in the Northeast, was bleeding cash. David hired Ethan as a senior account manager with a simple mandate: fix it or shut it down. Ethan dove in, driving to every prospect within 200 miles. From Boston to Raleigh, he listened to their frustrations: late shipments, clunky interfaces, unresponsive vendors, and promised solutions. He didn't just sell software, he built trust. By year 3, the Eastern Division turned a profit, and Ethan's team grew from 5 to 30. He promoted Lisa, a sharp customer service rep, to account management, and hired Javier, a brilliant coder fresh out of UT Austin. After seeing his prototype for a real-time tracking feature, Ethan's personal life paid the price. His son, Noah, was 6 when he started. His daughter, Emily, was born a year later. Laura, his high school sweetheart, juggled her teaching job while Ethan missed Noah's soccer games and Emily's first words. "You're building something that lasts," he'd tell Laura during tense dinners. She'd nod, but her eyes told a different story. 3 CEOs came and went during Ethan's tenure. Each respected his work, relying on him to close major deals and retain clients. Vertex grew from a regional player to a national name, with Ethan's division leading in revenue and retention. Pinnacle Logistics, their biggest client, Signed a $2 million contract because Ethan personally flew to their headquarters during a snowstorm to fix a server crash. Meridian Healthcare, another key account, stayed loyal after Ethan spent weeks customizing their dashboard to meet HIPAA standards. The 2022 acquisition by Horizon Capital changed everything. The new board cared about numbers, not relationships. Nathan Pierce arrived 6 months later, armed with an MBA from Wharton and a team of consultants from Chicago. In meetings, he spoke of optimizing client acquisition costs and streamlining legacy processes. Dismissing Ethan's relationship-driven approach as inefficient. 2 weeks before his termination, Nathan demanded a report on all major accounts. Ethan delivered a 50-page document detailing contract values, renewal dates, and growth potential. What he didn't include, because no spreadsheet could capture it, was the trust he'd built over years. The morning after his termination, Ethan sat in his home office, a small room overlooking their backyard. Laura brought him coffee, her hand lingering on his shoulder. "What are you thinking? They don't know what they've done," he said, not angry but clear, like a fog lifting. He opened his personal laptop, not the company-issued one he'd returned, and pulled up his contacts, names, numbers, personal emails, 16 years of connections, not in Vertex's CRM but in his own records. At 10:15 a.m., his phone buzzed. It was Rachel from Pinnacle Logistics. "Ethan, we got an email about organizational changes at Vertex. Are you still there? I was let go yesterday," he said, voice even. Silence. Then, "Who's handling our account?" They didn't say. "Likely one of Nathan's new hires." Another pause. "Our renewal's in 2 months. We stayed with Vertex because of you. Ethan, you fixed our outages, customized our system. I need to talk to my board." "Of course," Ethan said, "you have my number." By noon, calls came from Meridian Healthcare, Coastal Distributors, and Nova Tech, all echoing Rachel's shock and concern. Ethan answered honestly, never badmouthing Vertex, only stating facts. By evening, Nathan had left 3 voicemails. Ethan didn't return them. That night, Laura found him at the kitchen table, staring at a spreadsheet, not of clients, but of options, companies that had tried to recruit him over the years, competitors who valued his track record, even the idea of starting his own firm. "What's next?" she asked. "I don't know yet," he admitted, "but I'm not done." 3 days after his termination, Nathan's calls turned desperate. "Ethan, we need to talk," he said in a voicemail, his tone strained. "Pinnacle and Meridian are threatening to pull their contracts. They say it's because of you." Ethan listened, then deleted the message. That afternoon, he met Carla Ruiz, Vertex's former CFO, for coffee. Carla had been pushed out during the acquisition and still had contacts inside the company. "Nathan's panicking," she said, stirring her latte. "Pinnacle sent a letter citing loss of key personnel. Meridian's board is meeting tomorrow to discuss their contract." Ethan nodded, unsurprised. "They're saying I'm sabotaging the company, calling clients to leave." Carla raised an eyebrow. "Are you?" "I've taken their calls, answered questions. That's it," she smiled. "That's enough. Nathan doesn't get it. You didn't just manage accounts, you were the relationship." That evening, Daniel Harper called. He was CEO of Nexus Innovations, a smaller competitor that had courted Ethan twice before. "I heard about Vertex," Daniel said. "Their loss. My offer stands. VP of Operations. Equity stake. Full control over client relationships. Name your terms." Ethan hesitated. "I need a few days." "Take your time," Daniel said, "but I know what you're worth." Later, Ethan received an email from Vertex's legal team, accusing him of violating non-solicitation clauses. He forwarded it to his lawyer, Paul Grayson, a friend from college. Paul called within an hour, chuckling. "Their case is nonsense. You didn't sign a non-solicitation agreement. The non-compete only bars you from joining a competitor for 6 months. And even that's shaky. You're clean." Ethan exhaled. "So I've done nothing wrong?" "Not a thing. If they push, we could counter for wrongful termination." "No transition plan for a senior leader?" "Courts hate that." The next morning, Lisa, Ethan's former account manager, emailed him a leaked presentation from Nathan's team, dated a week before his termination. It outlined a restructuring plan, eliminate Ethan's role, replace senior staff with cheaper hires, and raise client prices by 20% post-renewal. A note on slide 15 read, relationship-based model is a liability. Transition to scalable, system-driven operations for margin growth. The plan listed Lisa, Javier, and 3 others from Ethan's team for termination. Ethan printed the document, his hands steady but his mind racing. They hadn't fired him for performance, they'd fired him because his success didn't fit their vision. By noon, Nathan texted, board meeting tomorrow. Need to discuss reconciliation. Call me. Ethan ignored it. Instead, he called Daniel at Nexus. I'm interested, but I have a condition. I want to bring my core team. 5 people. Done. Daniel said without hesitation. When can you start? 2 weeks. I'll need offer letters for everyone. That evening, Ethan called Lisa, Javier, and the others, explaining the restructuring plan and their names on the cut list. He outlined Nexus's offer, better pay, equity, and a chance to keep building together. All 5 said yes within minutes. 2 weeks later, Ethan started at Nexus Innovations, his team in tow. Within a month, Pinnacle, Meridian, Coastal, and Nova Tech signed contracts with Nexus, requesting Ethan as their account manager. He hadn't solicited them, they'd called him. Unwilling to trust Vertex's new team. Vertex's Eastern division unraveled. Nathan's consultants fumbled client handoffs, and price hikes alienated smaller accounts. 6 months after Ethan's departure, Vertex missed revenue targets by 22%, with the Eastern division losing 45% of its business. Nathan resigned under pressure, replaced by an interim CEO who reached out to Ethan with a desperate offer. Return as COO. Name your salary. Ethan declined politely. I'm committed to Nexus. He wrote. Nexus, meanwhile, thrived. Ethan's team rebuilt the client relationships Vertex had squandered, customizing solutions and earning trust. Daniel greenlit an employee ownership program, with Lisa and Javier leading its rollout. By the 1-year mark, Nexus's revenue had climbed 35%, and Ethan's division set a company record for client retention. 1 year after his termination, Ethan drove past Vertex's old Austin office. A Nexus logo now hung where Vertex's had been. Nexus had acquired the Eastern division's assets for a fraction of their value. Rehiring staff laid off during Nathan's tenure. The rest of Vertex was sold off in pieces, its brand fading into obscurity. At home, Laura had cooked Ethan's favorite, steak and roasted potatoes, to mark the anniversary. Noah, now 22, called from Seattle, where he worked as a civil engineer. How's the new gig, Dad? Good, Ethan said, building something real. Later, he stepped onto the back porch, the Texas air warm and heavy. He thought of Nathan, wondering briefly where he'd landed. He thought of the late nights, the missed family moments. The years poured into Vertex. The sacrifices had been real, but so were the relationships he'd built. They'd followed him, not because he'd asked, but because they were rooted in trust. The next morning, Ethan arrived at Nexus early. His team was preparing a pitch for a new client. A logistics firm Pinnacle had referred. The quarterly numbers were in. 97% client retention, 40% revenue growth. Daniel stopped by his office. You didn't just bring clients, Ethan, you brought a way of doing things. Relationships over transactions. Ethan nodded, glancing at the Client of the Year plaque on his shelf. Now joined by a photo of his Nexus team. He didn't need revenge. He didn't need vindication. He'd built something that would last. And this time, it was his.